I'm Dr. Basonio, formerly known as Dr. Tritchler. I just recently got married last month, so I'm trying to get used to saying that. Welcome to Classroom Management Strategies. I'm presenting a couple different topics today. I'll probably have to check the schedule to remind myself when I'm presenting what. We're going to be moving around and doing some stuff, doing some activities in here today, so we're going to feel free to move these really comfy looking chairs that if I sit in it, I might fall asleep in, or any of these chairs. I don't have a wireless remote. I used to have one, so you'll see me walking back and forth just to change. And hopefully you can see everything okay. This is a collage of me, just to kind of give you an idea of who is this person, I do it for my students all the time. It's kind of a, who is this person? What does she think she knows about special ed? But I did receive my bachelor's and my master's at Florida State. I'm originally from Florida. If I could get paid every time someone asked me, why'd you move to Oklahoma? I'd probably be a very rich person right now. So both my bachelor's and master's were in special education. Back then it was, and yes, I say back then, I'm a little bit older than some people sometimes think I am. It was when they distinguished the degree by disability. So my degrees are actually in learning disabilities and emotional behavioral disabilities, or what Oklahoma would call ED. So then I began my first teaching job at Hillsborough County Public Schools, which is up at the top right, which is near Tampa. I taught a 4th and 5th grade self-contained, what was formerly known as self-contained classroom of varying exceptionalities. So more of like it's kind of an all-day resource room. Then I moved to Dothan, Alabama. I could not find their logo on the internet that it allowed me to copy and paste it in there. So I put a map of where it's located, because a lot of people don't know where Dothan is. I was an 8th grade special ed teacher there, the 8th grade special ed teacher back in the day where you had to do IEPs by hand on carbon copies. Been there, done that. And I had students that I oversaw that were included in the classroom all day long. It was probably one of the best setups I've ever seen, where I saw them at the beginning of the day and then they went into all their full inclusion classroom. And I also had students, I taught every subject. I had students that came in for every subject. Some of them were with me all day, and some of them I saw for maybe just math and science, and they went out for social studies and whatever other topic. And then I ended up moving down to Broward County. I taught at Plantation Middle School, which is in Fort Lauderdale area, where we used EdPlan. So I was very happy to hear that we were using EdPlan Oklahoma, because I used it for over 6 years in Fort Lauderdale. I'm kind of known as an EdPlan guru, so if you guys ever need anything, if your school districts ever need any help with that, I offer free EdPlan services, as long as it doesn't interfere with my classes at NSU. There I was a severe and profound teacher for a couple years. Then I taught science when there was actually no shortage of special ed teachers. They actually pushed me into full-time science, gen ed. That was interesting. I learned a lot. And then I became their director of their special ed program. The school districts in Broward County schools, they're the 6th largest school district in the nation, so that middle school had about over 1,000 students, probably about 1,100 students. I had a caseload of always about 200 students. So when I ended up moving to Oklahoma to work at NSU, I fell in love with NSU and started working there as an assistant professor, because I was finishing up my PhD at Barry University, which is in North Miami, Florida. My alma mater is Shaquille O'Neal. He graduated this month before. Just putting that out there. When I started working at NSU, I teach the special ed courses there, and then I became department chair, where now I oversee the special ed, early childhood, elementary ed, and reading programs. And my counterpart over here, Ms. Geraldine Haney, is one of our new faculty there too, so we're excited to have her. And then I just put a picture of actually what the beach looks like from where I came from. I was born and raised in Sarasota. Just thought, in case you all wanted to take a little vacation there. And then, of course, a picture of my husband and I. He teaches at Union Public School. So a little bit about me and my experience. And I currently teach undergrad and graduate courses. Our special ed, we have a brand new special ed autism program at NSU. We now have 43 grad students in it. It's only been in place for a year. We're really excited about it. So I stay busy, but I'm always here to help the schools. I come out and help you guys whatever you need. So let's get into classroom management strategies. So, you bought an all-inclusive cruise to Fiji. I don't know with what money, but go with it. So that you can enjoy your spring break with your colleagues. Unfortunately, your ship ran aground, and the rescue mission hasn't located you and your colleagues. You ended up on a deserted island without any fresh water, river, or streams. That's your island. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Not if you're stuck on it for a while. Each one of you has a physical or emotional condition that occurred during your traumatic experience. Someone has lost their vision, so whoever you choose to have lost their vision, put on the blindfold or close your eyes without cheating. So you guys decide, okay? Another colleague does not have any control of their arms, so I'm not going to tie your hands around your back because then you guys will be like, whoa, she's weird. So go ahead and whoever wants to put their hands behind their back, just kindly do that so that you can't use your arms. It's one person. Your best friend and colleague is in complete shock and has lost the ability to speak. So one of you is not going to be able to speak. And then, of course, the other person, or the person that can't speak also, the fourth person has lost all fine motor control. So you can't use your hands, and you can't hear also. So pretend you can't hear. I didn't have enough earmuffs at work. I actually had like 2, but I didn't have enough. So just pretend you can't hear anything, or maybe you might want to just close your ears, cover your ears, okay? So you guys decide who's going to do what. We've got one person who is blindfolded or closing their eyes. One person who has put their hands behind their back, another person who cannot speak, and then your fourth person, that's why you lost fine motor control, because you're covering your ears. Okay, so just cover up your ears. So, you must all work together to create a container based off of the palm fronds that I gave you, right? The stuff you found on the island, the palm fronds, the stuff that's washed up on shore. So go ahead and put together your contraption that's going to collect water. Together, you're going to work together and create a contraption that collects water. However, there's a Category 3 hurricane coming to your island, and you're going to have to hurry up, all right? So your little island's in the direct path, so y'all better hurry up collecting your water. You have 5 minutes to complete your task. So when I say go,
We have started dating. Nope. Okay, so one person. Yes.
And go. Yeah, 5 minutes.
She's using her hands to serve it.
Okay. Sorry, it's a minion. I can't help it. They're minions. I love my minions. Time's up. No more. The storm's here. You better seek shelter. I don't know where on your island, but maybe go find a cave or something. All right. Let's look at what we have. You guys just kind of want to show us your contraptions. There's no embarrassment here. What happens in the media center stays in the media center. Okay. So we have the group over here. They finished a little early. Their contraption. Do you think they're going to be able to collect a lot of water in their contraption?
They see the bottom sealed.
Got the bottom sealed.
Because there's going to be a lot of wind, this plastic will embed into the ground.
Very good.
So it won't fall in.
Very good.
Solid inside to keep it.
Look at that. So either somebody was under construction, did construction at one time. No, I'm just kidding. Good job. Okay, what do we have over here? Similar, very similar.
She was just
Very good. I see a couple of same layered cone shapes, right? Okay, good. Over here, I've seen actually one very similar to that before. Yeah, like a cylinder kind of everything, right? See how we're already tying math into this? And hence, not that that's a math strategy yet, but okay, what else? You get a little pouch. How perfect. A little pouch, and okay, and there's a foam piece inside of it, so maybe that might help with reinforcement, right? An origami cup. I love it. Someone was back in the origami skill. Very good. What else? So they kind of put on your pouch with their little phone, or your phone / cylinder, something happening. It's a snow cone. I love it. Very good. Okay, over here. They didn't finish, so they might be running out of water and having to hurry up and hold it underneath their mouths as the rain's coming in. So they're gonna, take a risk and go out in the storm and try to catch some water there. But okay, it's still maybe somewhat effective. And another little pouch. Very good. Okay, so how did this make you feel? Just give me some answers. How many of you felt uncomfortable? Okay. Right? How many of you Frustrated, uncomfortable, frustrated. Did one person in the group take charge?
Yes.
Okay,
She got frustrated because she couldn't use her hands.
She couldn't use her hands. Did she tell you guys a lot of what to do?
But then we had someone say, explain it to us what you're thinking.
Very good. Okay, so
I didn't like it because
explain that. Tell me what you're
had to listen
thinking.
because I was blindfolded.
Okay, very good. All right. Which ones kind of took charge in your groups? What?
Yeah,
The one that couldn't speak
Use your hands.
or use their hands? The one that couldn't use their hands.
One that couldn't use their hands.
What about the one who was blind? Did anybody take charge in that?
I think they both did at the same time.
A lot of times when I do this,
Charge
the person who
first.
was blind ends up like putting it together somehow, just listening to directions.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So what are this each ability or obviously the person who was blindfolded was what representative of what type of disability? Visually impaired or blind, correct. The person who lost or who had no control of their arms, what would that be an example of? I'm sorry? Physical impairment, okay. Maybe it could be something similar to cerebral palsy of some sort. We know there's plenty of different types of physical disabilities out there. What else? The person who could not speak, what could that have been representative of? Could be deaf, hard of hearing, or a hearing impairment, okay. Nonverbal autism, possibly, okay. It could even be one of your behavior students who just was like, I'm not having it. I'm not doing anything. Anything that's happening right here, I'm just gonna sit back and watch, right? Okay. And then of course your student who couldn't hear and lost fine motor control could be representative. The hearing portion could be representative of what? Hearing, hard of hearing, or deaf. And then the fine motor control would be some type of occupational disability where they can't use their hands. But I had to kind of do that one so you guys can cover your ears since I didn't have enough earmuffs. I have actually done this before with my special ed classroom one time. We were having an issue with bullying. And this is where the classroom management ties in. And I have a lot of times often students who have a disability often bully another student who has a disability. That happened quite often in our school. So we did this activity, and I'm really glad I did it at the end of the day because I had one student who she had a learning disability. She turned around to another student with a physical impairment. I think she had CP. And she's like, I never really thought about how difficult it might be for you to tell your arms to do one thing and you can't do them. You can't do it. And she's like, the way she phrased it, she's like, I really opened my eyes to this. And I was like, I'm like crying at the end of the day. And I'm like, thank goodness I did spend the day because they're seeing me cry. I don't never let my students see me cry. But it's interesting. It puts a different perspective. I also did this for our entire faculty. And especially a lot of our general education teachers, I did a whole group with the general education teachers, and it brought some perspective that they never really thought of. So think of it, feel free to beg, borrow, and borrow again is what I like to say, not steal, because it's a little aggressive. So feel free to use this if you want. I do this again, like I said, with my undergrad and my graduate students, and it really does work. It just puts things in perspective. Feel free to keep your contraptions, your water contraptions. You should display them in your classroom because they're beautiful pieces of art. My mother was an art teacher for 35 years, so I respect art very much. We're gonna come back to this because I know that we just finished up an activity and I don't want to go over. So when we think of your classroom, first we're going to talk about physical environment of your classroom. Now, of course, we're at a media center here, and at the end of today's session, we're going to rearrange the media center to pretend it is it is a classroom, but we're going to make it into a classroom that is going to help us. You have to be proactive. When you think of classroom management strategies, you have to be proactive. Anything that's going to help alleviate possible behavioral issues in the classroom. And we're talking gen ed students, special ed students, it doesn't matter. Environmentally, acknowledge your environment. Look at your environment. Are there things that are, in the way that you can't see your students? You should be able to see your students at all times. And they should be able to, move around. When I had students with severe and profound disabilities, of course, I had quite a few students who had wheelchairs. I needed to make sure it was accessible to them. Their work. Think of where can you really display their work. So I was a real big advocate on student authenticated work. I love to display their work, even if they were drawing art pictures, because it makes them a little bit more willing to want to participate. I have some rough students in my classes. Any school I've ever worked at was inner city schools, and it took a lot to motivate them sometimes. So anytime it was like, wow, you did a really good job with that, I'm going to display it. Would you like me to display it? And they would be so willing to hang it up themselves. I usually just had a wall of student authenticated work, so that was a learning mechanism for them to learn what authenticated meant. Barrier-free, which is kind of what we mentioned. A sense of immunity. I always expressed to my students, where I always taught, I had to respect them first before they respected me. I was not getting any respect out of them if they didn't know I respected them. But once I gained their respect, man, you'd be surprised how much they would do. And they would protect me too. Sometimes to an extent where it's like, Miss, at the time I was Miss T. Miss T, they just totally dissed you. Do you need me to go take care of them? No, not no, I will take care of it. But thank you for showing that concern and that care and that empathy. So a lot of our students have a hard time with empathy and feeling towards one another. Personal territory. Some of them needed their own little space. A lot of my students with ADHD, I would let them stand up and do some of their work. Let's say maybe if this counter, I don't want to walk over there and make these people feel uncomfortable in this room over here. But maybe if their counter was a little higher, they would have their own area that I'd let them decorate it so that they knew that was their place. If they needed to get the wiggles out or whatever you guys want to call them, they could go into their own little area and do their work standing up. Now, I had 3 students in one class one time. They each had, I think they all had ADHD. It was 2 girls and 1 boy. And, 2 boys and 1 girl. I walk in one day and they're all standing up doing their work, or I had done something, and then someone had watched the class and I had to come back in, so I had to step out for probably some type of behavioral issue, because I was teaching class and also a special ed director at the same time, so oftentimes I got pulled out of the classroom, unfortunately, but someone would come and watch my class. So I walk in and they're all standing, and they're all, the 3 of them that were standing, but they were in their different spots, and I'm like, what's going on here? They're like, we decided to trade. Can we do that? Is that okay? We're going to trade our spots. I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, can you guys come up with a schedule so I know what day you guys are going to be? And sure enough, they worked together and came up with a detailed schedule of what days who was going to be standing in what location. And then they each kind of decorated each location. It was awesome. I'm like, collaboration. All right, we're promoting collaboration here, all on your own. Authentic motivation. What it motivates them intrinsically, which we're going to get into a little bit. Sometimes finding that intrinsic motivation is difficult. It may not always be something tangible. I try not to do tangible things as much as possible. We do have to teach them that we work for. Do we not work for money? I know it's not maybe the pay scale that we want, but we expect a paycheck when we do our work, correct? So you always have to tie it into real life experiences. Sometimes I had to sit down with my students, and I'd sit down with my principal and be like, okay, so let's talk about this. Maybe there was an incident that happened. If I tell my principal everything that I feel and what's on my mind, what's going to happen? Oh, you get fired, Miss T. Yes. And then what happens when I try to go get another job? They're going to call her. Do you think she's going to recommend me to get another job? You have to always tie it in and make it so that they can see a little bit further down the road how it's going to affect them in the workplace. And then classroom flexibility. We know how much a lot of our students have a hard time with change. We have to be able to prepare for that, but we also have to teach them things are going to happen unexpectedly. I've always was a big advocate, even for our students with autism. We have to teach them that stuff is going to change. We have to do social stories to tell them that guess what? You know what? Something may not go the way that you want. If you constantly keep it the same for them, which is fine, but you have to change it up a little bit, because what happens when they become an adult? They walk into a restaurant somewhere and they don't have their typical food that day. And I've had it happen to students before where they've had meltdowns in a restaurant because the particular food wasn't there that they always expected. So we have to prepare them for that. Try to keep things as similar as possible, but prepare them for unexpected change. And there's different strategies you can use for that. But let's talk about physical environment real quick. Let's look at this example. I like the fact that it says kidney table. I know it's the shape of the kidney. It looks like kidney table. Anything you see here that might be, I'm going to make sure I can get to this stuff, your information. to take with you, because I have gifts for you. You see the teacher's desk. Is there anything here that could be maybe cause some behavioral issues? Okay, the teacher's desk, that is definitely back to the students. So we might want to relocate that. I mean, really, are you really at your desk all that often? No, you really shouldn't be. You should be up moving around. But there are times that maybe you need to sit down. Because, you guys do have to take a break during the day. I mean, don't wear yourself out to the point where you've got problems with your, legs and your physical from having issues and stuff. You do have to rest from time to time.
I would make the student chairs to the other side. They're not able to see the smart board.
Correct. The ones that are facing the projector, is that or the ones that are back?
Inside seem like they need to be on the outside.
They're going to have to turn to look at the projector. Correct. It would be kind of like, I don't know, maybe if someone's chair was right here, they'd have to turn to look at the projector in this room. Does that make sense? Absolutely. Good. Let's just go through maybe another one or two. How about this one? I have student Cubbies. And yes, that's Elmo as in the technology Elmo, not the South Simi Street Elmo. You have a word wall in there, computer. Teacher desk is now facing them, but she may still have a hard time seeing some of the students if she has to sit down. You have your beanbag chair, your circle rug. Where's the projector, the whiteboard? So again, you still kind of have a problem with students facing this way or that way and having to turn to look at the projector. Makes it a little bit feasible for group work, group activities. I'm a big advocate for stations and centers from kindergarten all the way up to high school. My sister teaches high school, she uses stations all the time. Because you can promote all different types of learning styles. I used to do stations when I taught science, and we would do like mini labs. They would do virtual labs. I used to do a lot of virtual labs. And it's really helpful for our students with ADHD or any type of students who have a hard time attending for a certain amount of time. They know when that timer goes off. You talk about solving classroom management problems, and I did it for my severe and profound students too. I had a lot of visual schedules. They had to pick up their little picture, BoardMaker, which I have BoardMaker, the actual program, up there on display. They would take their picture of BoardMaker, take it off, put it to the station they were going to, and there's a little Velcro place that they could put it on there, do their little center or station. Whether it was working with me individually one-on-one, that's another reason why I did a lot of stations and centers even for advanced students, because I got time to work with them one-on-one or a very small group almost on a daily basis. And you can really collect a lot of data and see their progress. Or with the paraprofessionals, when they're doing remediation, because remember, your paraprofessional should be doing remediation, not initial teaching. And a lot of times I used to do a lot of fun remediation activities with the paraprofessionals that they had a good time with the students, and they were providing a fun way to do remediation. Anything else you see with this one? Things keep making noise over there. It's kind of like a summer break. Okay, I'm going to skip forward to, we're going to rearrange the room at the end. Classroom rules. When you create your classroom rules, I always had our students do them together as a group. So they created their own rules. I always made sure that the statements are positive. If I would ever say anything like no running, no shouting. I made sure they always aligned with the student code of conduct. Even in elementary school, I don't know how most school districts, if you sign your own student code of conduct. But our school districts, everyone I've ever taught in had to. So I made sure it aligned with that. And I'm gonna give you a better example here in a little bit. So student authenticated means that they created it. Incorporate games. A lot of times we used to play games that pertain to the rules. I went just to the beginning of the school year. I did it like every couple weeks to the point where it was often requested. Can we play the rule game? Sure, no problem. I'm talking about like students that were 15 years old in the 8th grade still wanting to play the rule game in the classroom. You have to make it fun for them, but they may not realize how much they're actually learning from activities. Quizzes on the different types of rules in your classroom. And this is always explained to the students, and my classroom rules were always explained to the parents, whether it was through email, whether it was during open house. Any classroom management system I had, I always found a way. If I didn't see them at open house and they didn't get a response email, I called them. Sometimes I was blessed. I had a social worker who would go out into the students' homes, even if I needed them for an IEP meeting. I worked in a school district. Like I said, I had about 200 students on my caseload. Some parents I never saw, so a lot of times she'd go out there and offer a ride to come to a meeting, and I would go over all of these things. And you'd be surprised, how parents were a little bit more appreciative when we were making that extra effort. I physically would not drive out there because that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. I would go to the people who were allowed to go into the school districts, or into the classrooms. And the reason why I'm always very particular about how I worked in a school district that was very student happy. I've been through a due process. It's nothing I wish I'd get against my worst enemy. But I learned a lot through going through due process. And we're talking about a due process from a parent of a student who was in all gen ed classes. And we thought we were doing everything we were supposed to be doing, everything that she requested, we did. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot from our advocates. I'm a big person for working with your advocates, and I've learned so much from them. So I always invited advocates into our meetings if they had one, because I really enjoyed when they were there because I respected their opinion a lot. Okay, so externalizing behaviors and internalizing behaviors, it's usually one or the other. They're either behaviors you're going to see, which is which one? Those behaviors you see are what? Externalizing behaviors. You can physically see them. The ones that are a little bit more difficult to understand are the ones that they internalize. They keep those behaviors to themselves. A lot of your students with EBD, and I always say EBD because it's emotional and or behavioral or both. And I also use the term disability or maybe disorder. I think Oklahoma uses disturbed, but I have a problem with the term disturbed because I don't think they're disturbed people. I don't think they're disturbed students. Disturbed to me just puts such a negative stigma on it, but that's just Dr. B's, philosophy. So just be aware that if there are signs that you can see for internalizing behavior sometimes, you've got to make sure you document. Document everything. I always documented everything. Ed Plan has a great way to document any type of contact with a parent. There's other ways that you can document what you're seeing. So I learned the hard way, well, I should say my gen ed teacher, some of my gen ed teachers learned the hard way what happens when we don't document. I'm going to pass this out. This is free for you guys to use. Like I said, most of it's begged, borrowed, and borrowed again. That would be great if you don't mind. The last sheet, did you get, she was on just an extra one. I think I have enough. If not, don't worry, I can always email it to you. I've got a sheet of paper here with your email. This is what I created for one of my schools one time, and I worked with my administration. This is what we call the offenses. We implemented for a positive behavior intervention school, the PBIS, I know you hear pop up from time to time. It actually reduced our school's referrals by 50% when we compared it from the previous year. What's great about this is students know exactly what's expected of them. Now, yes, we know that these are consequences. You always pair stuff up with rewards. So I'll get to my reward system here in a second. I created these. Everything that's on the right-hand side was in our student code of conduct. So they already knew what was expected of them because they had to sign it. So let's say, Jamie was talking without permission. So I would just simply walk up to her and say, you have your first offense, Jamie. Write down 2A. That took minimal amount of time away from teaching. Obviously if the student started arguing with me, I never got into an argument. I let it go because eventually it'll subside when you're not paying attention to what they're trying to. Because they're going to argue, and I would just always say, I'm not going to argue with you right now. We can talk about it later. So that was a verbal warning. The first and second offense were a verbal warning. So let's say the next day, Jamie's having a bad week, and she decided to come to class late. So I would mark that down, 1A. Jamie, you have your second offense. Just personally to her, not in front of the entire class. I always kept a little folder of these guys to the side of my desk. So all I had to do was pull it out and mark it. The third was a phone call home. My parents knew about this. I gave it to a copy of them via email. I gave a copy of this during the open house. So they knew if I was making a phone call home, guess what? They were on their third offense, and sometimes my parents would be like, oh no, they made it to their third offense. They knew. Then the fourth offense was a referral. However, my students very rarely made it to a referral because they knew exactly where they stood in class. I've had administrators come up and say, Jamie, how many offenses do you have in class? I have 3. If I get another one, it's a referral. You know, they knew it's okay because they're going to test their limits. They always are going to test their limits. So you can see how easy it is just to record it. However, then I would pair it up with my token economy. My students got to pick out of a box at the end of the week. Some students may need it every day, but I tried not to do immediate rewards every day because we don't get a paycheck. It would be nice if I got a paycheck every day. That'd be awesome. But that doesn't happen. Sometimes at NSU, we get paid once a month. So,
I have a question.
Sure.
So is this something that you do throughout the week? So it starts over?
It starts over, for us, it started over every 9 weeks.
9 weeks, okay.
So they got a nice kind of fresh, clean slate at the end of the grading period. But no, it needed to continue on because if I did it every day, it was way too many chances for them. Because we have to teach consequences. We have to teach that if they break these types of rules when they turn 18, that could be breaking the law and they're going to get arrested.
So just from personal experience, I know that several times I have been way past with a student, way past the board.
Anytime after
Where
4 was
we-
an automatic referral.
And it just immediately.
And a lot of times I would attach this with the referral, and I never had administrator question me the offenses in my classes because they knew I'd given plenty of opportunities. And they also knew I paired it up with the token economy system. So a lot of times my students, if they didn't get an offense that week, they got a couple tickets to put in the box to shop in. Now my students, I told them where I shopped. A lot of times I shopped at the dollar store, and I'm not a made money guy, so don't be expecting expensive Xbox games and stuff like that. And they knew, maybe hot fries. A lot of my students wanted hot fries at the dollar store. Okay, that's fine. Whatever motivates you. Some of them like the squishy ball that had the sparkly stuff in it. Glow sticks were a hot item. Whatever they wanted. A lot of times if they were with their parents in the dollar store and they were like, ooh, I had one student like write a list down of stuff. Could you get this? Sure, that's fine. It didn't cost me a lot of money at all. There was a lot of stuff in there. Sometimes parents would donate stuff for free and tell me, look, Friday would roll around, Miss T, you have not picked out of the box. We need to pick our names out of the box. They would remind you. Now, I was giving tickets for this. I was giving tickets if they came in and just started working. It made it very nice. They wrote their name on the back of the ticket, got up, put it in the box. They knew that they were not allowed to make noise or start chit-chatting with their friends when they put that in the box. Okay? And sometimes it might be, if I notice a group of students were coming in and not working at all, guess what? Janie, who happened to be doing her work and coming in, got like 5 tickets. I just kind of put them on the desk, and you'd be surprised how many of the other students are like, oh, yeah, I want some tickets. Okay? And they had to continue to do so. But there's just different rewarding things. Some of the students like to come eat lunch with me. I don't know why it was cool to come eat lunch with me, but that's fine. Bring a friend, come eat lunch with me. It wasn't always something tangible. It was something that was motivating for them. Okay? Let's see. And I have the success stories. I've got this is also, I think, in your packet. I have a student who just graduated high school. She had severe EBD that was getting in fights left and right with students. I guess once she got into high school, she did junior ROTCs. I usually always taught middle school. I just got a message from her mom on Facebook the other day saying, she graduated high school and she's going on to college, and thank you for everything you did for her. Thank you for having patience for her, because I was always the one that she was usually coming to when she would get in trouble with administrators. So a lot of these things do work, and they do remember. The daily progress report was something we used. This is actually, our school made this. Our school used this. This was easy for gen ed teachers to fill out on any student, whether they have a disability or not. Yes, no. And then my students would get a reward. If they didn't get so many no's out of a day, if they got so many yeses, or I guess I should say out of a day, then they would get 1 ticket or 2 tickets to put in the box. Now remember, I was picking their names out of the box, so there was a chance I may not actually call their name. Very similar to how they would deal with things after they graduate high school, correct? I mean, you pay how much? $1 for a lotto ticket. Are you really sure you're going to win that lottery, right? I still to this day believe I'm going to, but it's the same type of thing. So you're teaching them a skill that they actually need to use after they graduate high school. Okay, so feel free to use anything that's in there's a behavioral contract. Be careful with behavioral contracts. You got to make sure you follow up behind Make sure you always implement the consequences and rewards. I don't remember what else I have on here. This just goes over primary and secondary reinforcements, which I've actually kind of already talked about. Oh, I actually covered everything, mostly, except we didn't really have time to rearrange the room, but that's okay. Just so you know, these are the undergraduate programs we offer, and then the graduate programs, we have the new special ed autism program, reading, and early childhood. And I just put the ones that I oversee. I oversee all those programs. So in case you ever have any questions, or if you want to take a class here or there, you can do that too. You can always take a class that you need non-degree seeking students. So if you need professional development and stuff like that too, just give me a call. Okay, so that's all I have. I'm sorry we kind of ran out of time for a little bit, but if you want any of these documents or any, I believe I've sent everything to Kelly. Put your name and email up here on the list, and thanks for coming. I'm glad you were here. Hope you had fun.
Thank you.